On a sunny morning in 1902, four men gathered around a table and signed a document that founded East Coast Lumber. And so began a story that has spanned four generations of the Osteen family. It's a story that begins with the ancestors of Alan Osteen and continues more than a century later. As history unfolded, the world changed, but East Coast Lumber survived two world wars, the Great Depression, the recent economic downturn, and numerous setbacks along the way. Today, with Alan's leadership, the company remains true to its strong history while adapting to the needs of an ever-changing world.
My first job at East Coast Lumber was, I was around 15 and I was a stock boy. I put up stock, I priced the stock, but I did a lot of other things too, like I took the garbage out, and a lot of the employees at the time kind of gave me the title of supervisor of refuse. But I actually enjoyed taking the garbage out because it let me go upstairs to the general office, and I got to go upstairs to where I thought was the power structure of East Coast Lumber, and I got to talk to all the staff up there, and I was a nosy kid. What are you doing? What are y'all working on? That type of thing. That gave me a better sense of appreciation for what everyone did back then to make the company a success.
Alan has been involved in the family business since he was a little boy. He was groomed to be Mr. East Coast Lumber. He was surrounded by family members, employees that taught him the business from the ground up.
I graduated from John Carroll High School and was accepted to Tulane University in New Orleans, and it was quite a transition, a small town here in Florida to New Orleans.
He went away to college and worked in the corporate world in Austin and Houston, and wanted to work for a company that didn't recognize his last name because he didn't want a job opportunity given to him. He wanted to work for it.
I was working for Jay Stein, who owned Stein Mart in Jacksonville, and the reason I was working for Jay Stein is because he recruited me to come to work for him, and I wanted to get back to Florida so that I could be closer to the family business and somehow maybe put together something that would facilitate me coming back. And I knew I couldn't do that living in Texas. So he called me up one day and asked me to come talk to him. We were opening a new store in Tallahassee, and we were at the airport picking up another buyer, and we saw three people walking towards us, and I looked over and I saw this beautiful, tall, slim, blonde woman in a seersucker suit that just absolutely knocked my socks off.
I met Jay Stein in the airport when I landed, and he greeted me and introduced me to Alan. And then that evening he had a dinner for his wife and employees, attorneys, bankers, and he had my place card seated right next to Alan, so he was a little matchmaker.
And he still talks about setting us up to this day when we are fortunate enough to see him when we were up in Jacksonville. But that's how we met, and for me it was love at first sight.
He was working in the clothing industry, but I think in the back of his mind he always wanted to come back, and the opportunity arose that we could put together a package where he could come back and kind of change direction. Not the philosophy that we had, but change direction as far as ownership.
What I try to do is find the best people that I can, and they know what my expectations are, and then I just let them go. I don't look at our managers as shopkeepers. I look at them as owners of the company. They own that yard, and they have the flexibility and the responsibility to make the decisions under the guidelines that we set. And that's how that philosophy works for us and has worked for us for many, many years.
Go into East Coast Lumber and you really feel like you're important. They know you. They have a great reputation in the community, and I think that builders appreciate the fact that they're appreciated when they go to East Coast. And I think that's really the fundamental values of the company is really what makes them successful.
Alan I met through the Florida Lumber Association Probably in the late 80s.
The Florida Building Material Association is to support the lumber and building material industry in Florida. We're a member and have been a member for over 90 years and have had leaders in our company be chairman of the board of the association because we feel it's very important to give back to our association and to give back to our industry that has been so very good to us.
The thing that brought us into being business partners together was called a roundtable, which is we got together with a group of lumber dealers who had businesses doing similar things that we do.
We had known Tom Joyner and Tom Joyner's dad. He's a generational owner of a lumber company in Lakeland. And you know, we just got talking to him. He wanted to grow grow his business in his market area, and to do that he needed some capital.
And we shared financial information. It took us a couple of years to get it in categories where we were truly comparing each other adequately, and that's where I discovered how well East Coast Lumber was being run.
And he has certainly grown his business over in the central part of the state exponentially, and it's been a very wonderful partnership, and it's still going strong to this day. The idea to publish Indian River Magazine, it really wasn't my idea, it was Gregory Inns's idea.
11 years ago, I got the idea to start a magazine because I started a magazine for the New York Times Company, and I thought I could do it on my own. So I came back here and I showed Alan a business plan.
He wanted to develop a lifestyle, high-gloss lifestyle magazine for the Treasure Coast. And so he was wanting to get some of my thoughts, some of my business sense. You know, we started talking about it. He said, you know, I need some investors, and you know, we need to identify 2 or 3 or 4 investors to help get this going. And you know, my first thought was, you don't need 2 or 3 or 4 investors because they're going to want to take it in separate directions. You just need one. And so we looked at each other and we said, okay, we'll do this together. We started the magazine, and we started going to these advertisers like Harbor Federal and saying, this is what we want to do. And it was surprising how many people said, we want to be a part of this.
When we started the magazine in 2006 and we had the business plan, we did have a strategy for adding magazines later on. We started with the first magazine that we added after Indian River Magazine, which covered the 3 counties, was the Sunrise Theater Playbill. And then we started Port St. Lucie Magazine, and that serves one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. And then we started Fort Pierce Magazine. That's an annual magazine that we do. And then we got the contract with St. Lucie County to publish the St. Lucie Travel Guide.
So probably the greatest challenge that we faced as a company was the Great Recession back in 2007, 8, and 9. It impacted our industry tremendously. There were lumber companies, generational lumber companies, that didn't survive the Great Recession. And we were able to, my cousin and I, Don, we were able to hunker down and continue to put, you know, people first in our company, and just get through this very difficult time.
There was so much change in banks and everything. We were fortunate that we were a company with no debt, and that is what got us through. We had to make some adjustments. We had to curtail a lot of things that we were doing, regroup, and we affiliated with Ace in 2 of our stores, and that helped us in that growth period trying to regroup. I think that that was a learning period for all of us.
I think it made us as a company stronger, leaner, and more appreciative of, you know, the business that we do have.
Alan never gave up when other companies were selling to the bigger corporations or closing their doors. Alan chose to keep the business running in the family.
We do support a lot of nonprofits in our community, and we do so because we see the need in the community. I mean, we see every day how great the need is, and the organizations that we support are making such a difference in the community.
Alan's work in the community is very widespread. He's been involved in the Rotary and St. Anastasia School on their board. He's been involved with Main Street, with Castle, and the list just goes on and on. And what I love about Alan is that he chooses things to become involved in that mean something to him.
When I started here at St. Anastasia about 12 years ago, Alan was a board member and a parent and loved the school and was very actively involved in our board. Alan has been very helpful to the school in reaching out to his networks to assist us with fundraising when we needed a new playground or when we were looking to raise money for a new science lab. Alan was very helpful in reaching out to networks that he knows.
Well, Alan and I have been members of the Fort Pierce Rotary Club for over 30 years, so it's been a long time friendship, and the fact that Rotary's motto is service above self serves Alan very well. He lives it.
Maybe one of the bigger projects that we've done, and I think Alan was actively involved in that. We did what we called Rotary Park, which is just off Virginia Avenue in Fort Pierce. It's a children's park. It's the second time we built it.
About 6-8 years ago, it needed to be refreshed, and we hired a company, and Alan not only worked on the second build as well, but he was one of the people that was very instrumental in getting it done. Thousands of younger people visit that park just every year and enjoy it. And Alan was not a small part, but Alan was a big part in that build.
I think Alan really enjoys being on the front lines and doing things in the community. Let's think about it. He's 4th, 5th generation Floridian. He's born here, he's raised here, he has a great deal of pride, and it'd be easy just to write a check, but that's not how he is. He wants to make sure that it's done right, that he's involved.
I think Alan's interaction with all the different, community projects and things, the example he sets examples for others. And, Alan is such a believer in doing these things that he has just been a great leader in helping our community to see how important these things are.
I've always found that Alan exudes confidence. He's humble at the same time. He's humorous. He leads through example. I found that Alan's love for his family and his deep faith is the kind of the rock in which he builds everything.
Some of the things that I've shared with my daughters about following their dreams is just to believe in yourself. I mean, if you can believe in yourself, you're going to have a leg up on everything, because you're going to be able to know that whatever you're doing, whether it's something in college or at work, if it's a challenging experience or if it's an opportunity to grow, if you believe in yourself, you're going to be successful.
He makes it known to me and my sisters that, I'm here for you. I'm your father, I'm your protector, I'm here for you. Whether you go down a bad path, whether you make the wrong decisions, I'm here for you. And the best part is just knowing that he loves us, knowing that he loves my mom, knowing he loves my sisters, knowing that I'm loved and I'm supported.
My parents taught me never to give up, and it's funny, I actually grew up riding horses, and so when I was little, they told me, if you fall off the horse, you get back on the horse. And the very first time I rode a horse, I actually fell off and broke my arm. And so I told my parents, I'm never getting back on a horse again, I'm done. And after I got my cast off, 6 weeks later, they put me back on the horse, kicking and screaming, but put me back on the horse and taught me that you never give up.
All of my girls rode horses, and Alan would be at every competition in state and out of state, and he actually even bought a string of polo ponies so that he would be on the field with them playing polo. The girls were on one field and he would be on another, and all of a sudden we would see a horse come running back without a person on it, just the saddle, and everybody would stop and look over, and there'd be Alan in the middle of the field just standing there without his horse. The horse had thrown him. That happened very often.
The most important thing that I can pass on to my children is our faith. I think that that's very important to us, and I think that that is something that that is the most important thing that I can do, is pass along, you know, our faith.
You know, I think Alan's a remarkable exemplar of a person of faith. You know, when you're around him, you sense a sort of a calm and a peacefulness and a consideration of others. You know, all of those qualities that I think people of all faiths, various types, demonstrate.
If he wasn't going to Mass every morning, he wouldn't be fed. And if you're not fed, then how do you keep going and all that stressful stuff that people throw your way?
And all you got to do is look at someone like Alan, and he can lift your day. And this community that we live in, called the Treasure Coast, that name is so deserving because we have so many treasures here on the Treasure Coast. Alan Osteen being one of them.
You know, I mean, he knows what he wants to accomplish with his business, and I think it's been exciting for him, an exciting adventure to take a business and build it the way he has, gone through a lot of tough times, you know, as most people have building a business, but he's been able to overcome those tough times and make a great success out of it.
You think of all the homes and businesses and things that he's contributed to material-wise to the building of all this that goes on within our community. And he wants to see our community continue to grow and prosper.
My oldest daughter, Megan, has come back and she's working for the business. It really was a little ahead of my schedule. She graduated from Southern Methodist University in Dallas and spent about 2.5, 3 years on her own working in the business world out there. But she kind of convinced me that she was ready to come home, to be closer to the family, and that she really wanted to become part of the family business. When you get this passion for the lumber business in your blood, it's hard to walk away from. You know, my cousin Don is going to be 80 this year, and he still comes into the office because he still loves it. And I think that I don't have any plans to retire, but I'm certainly going to try to groom the next generation of leaders so that I can spend a little more time with my family.
I do not think Alan will ever retire. I think that the lumber business is one of his children, and he would never leave one of his children. He has such a rich history with the lumber business that he wants to continue that tradition, and I believe that he will never give that up.
I'm very fortunate, I'm very blessed, and I have a lot to be thankful for, and I'm very grateful to God and to my family and to everyone around me that helps me become successful and helps me live my dream. You talked about, you know, my success. Well, my success is basically the people around me. They make me successful, and I'm just grateful and thankful and blessed because of them.